Hi, I'm back. I want to talk a little bit about a topic that is not in Chapter 17, but it's a good place to introduce it. It does come up kind of in Chapters 18 and 19 separately. And certainly probably you have some exposure to this in the real world, that countries try to manage their exchange rates. Okay, so for the level of this discussion, we don't need to be very deep about this, just accept the fact that sometimes countries and business people in those countries or tourists or whatever think, ooh, wouldn't it be great if our exchange rate was higher or lower? And then the government goes out and does something, okay? So my impression from the Trump administration is, while they're not trying to do this too much, I think that they would prefer that the U.S. exchange rate actually be higher, that it would appreciate a little bit. Okay, but like I said, I haven't seen them do much of that. You also see lots of countries around the globe that try to depreciate their currency intentionally. We're going to talk more about those in 18 and 19, but here I want to put out a fundamental point very quickly that tends to get missed by a lot of these discussions and a lot of these people. So go back to what we did in the last video. You don't have to view it right now, but if you remember, I said, what if we had two markets, okay, kind of working side by side, and I was talking about the market for dollars and the market for yen. And as always, when you buy something or sell something, you get something else in exchange for it, not the same thing. So when we're talking about buying and selling dollars, the price is denominated in yen per dollar. And when we're buying and selling yen, the price is denominated in dollars per yen. And we have a demand and supply in both markets. All right, so suppose that the government wants to change the exchange rate. All right, I had said that if consumers decide that they want to travel to a different country, or businesses decide they want to invest in a different country, they have to go get the currency from that country, and they do that by usually by selling their own currency and buying the foreign currency, so that there's a link between the supply in the one market and the demand in the other market, or between the demand in this market and the supply in this market. I didn't show that in the other video, but I could have. This is where we get into trouble with countries trying to manage their own exchange rates, okay? So imagine a country, say it's the U.S., okay, is concerned that this exchange rate, where we have an equilibrium, is not high enough, okay? Maybe they want that higher. They desire an appreciation. So we'll just write this here, U.S. desires appreciation. How do they make that happen? Well, outside of an economics class, people are very much of the sort of, well, they wave their hands and then it happens. And if you work through the economics, it's never going to be that simple. And of course, like in a lot of situations with government officials doing policy, I don't think they have any idea how complex these things actually are going to be before they go out and decide that they're going to do them. Okay? Now, they do have advisors that will help them out. Now, anybody that's had micro, and most of the students in macro have had micro, and if you haven't had micro, you're picking it up as we go, and it's not like we're doing the hard parts of micro here. We're just doing supply and demand, the basic things, okay? If you look at this diagram, if we want the exchange rate to appreciate, that means we got to be up in here someplace. There are two ways to do that. One would be to increase the demand or decrease the supply. Increasing the demand would be shifting to the right. Decreasing the supply would be shifting to the left. Okay? I'll mark those with blue to go this way, or red to go that way. Okay? And I'm trying not to clutter up this diagram, so I'm not going to draw a demand shift, but if we did shift the demand out, we'd end up with a blue point up here. Okay. If we did shift the supply back to the left, we'd go back to a red point over here. Okay. So there are two ways that a government could actually go about doing that. Here's where things get weird. Remember what I said in the last video, that this market is linked to this market. Okay. In order for supply to shift, that's going up to the red dot. This is the one we did in the earlier video. In order for supply to shift over here, you have to shift demand over here at the same time. So while we are appreciating our currency, whoops, I better explain this part very carefully. Remember, these prices are reciprocals of each other, so that when this one goes up, this one has to go down. Okay. So when U.S. desires an appreciation, part of the result of that is going to be Japan gets a depreciation. And how is that going to happen? Okay, so if it's a shift in supply, which is in red over here, supply in this market is linked to demand over here, how is demand going to have to shift to get to a lower exchange rate over here? It's going to have to go in this direction, so we get down to like this point right here. Alternatively, if the U.S. wanted to make its currency appreciate, they could do that by shifting demand out to the right, up to that blue point there. But demand over here is linked to supply over here, and that would require us getting down to this point here with that supply shift. Okay? So you're never going to get away from the fact that the two of them are linked together, and it requires one to do the other. Okay? So let's suppose that the United States, to get this appreciation, is going to do it by reducing supply. Okay, so what they could do is they could reduce the number of dollars that are out in circulation, okay, withdrawing them from the market so that U.S. consumers and firms had less dollars that they might exchange with Japanese consumers and firms. That seems pretty sketchy, okay, that they're actually going to be able to do that. Because simply they're going to have to be pulling dollars out of the market. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so what they could do instead is they could actually buy dollars. Okay, so let me write over here. The red one is sketchy. Okay, possible but sketchy. What makes more sense is the blue one, that the U.S. to produce this appreciation would have to increase the demand for dollars. That means the U.S. is going to have to go out to U.S. consumers and firms who are trying to get Japanese yen to go conduct business in Japan of one form or another. And the other parties in those transactions are going to want to be Japanese people coming here to conduct business. The United States is going to have to get into that market as competition for those Japanese consumers and firms and outbid them for the dollars. Okay? So if they're going to outbid them for the dollars, where are they going to actually get that money from? Well, they're going to have to go to Japan and get yen to bring to America to exchange for dollars here. Okay, so this is sounding kind of crazy. I know that this doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is the thing. This is why governments get themselves into trouble with exchange rate management, because they don't have any idea how difficult this actually is. Okay, so think about this. Okay. In order to increase demand here, to get this appreciation up to there, the U.S. government has to act like a Japanese consumer. And to act like a Japanese consumer, they've got to actually get the yen to act like a Japanese consumer. Okay? Is that weird or what? Okay? They're going to have to go out and get this supply of yen over here. Okay? Somehow to go back and trade this over here. That's just nuts, okay? But nonetheless, this is what countries attempt to do, okay? It gets worse than that, okay? I never said anything about whether Japan wants a depreciation of its currency, okay? Up here I said the U.S. desires an appreciation, but I hope you're getting the idea that you don't get the one without the other, okay? So if the U.S. wants a depreciation or an appreciation, is going to pursue a policy to get that, okay, the Japanese are going to have to put up with a depreciation of their currency. But what if they don't want that? Okay, well, if they don't want that, what they're going to do is the opposite of what the United States does, so that when the United States tries to shift a curve one way, the Japanese shift it back the other way. Or if the Americans try to shift a curve this way, the Japanese shift it back the other way. And you could probably imagine here that the two of them could waste a lot of time actually doing this sort of thing. Okay? The implication of all this is, one, that this is really hard, but two, that they don't really start out too much by thinking about appreciation and depreciation. It's a very difficult thing to do directly, okay? Instead, what they do is they think about what's our appropriate fiscal policy, what's our appropriate monetary policy, and what is that going to do to our exchange rate, okay? And they stick the exchange rate in there as one of those targets that they actually want to hit. Not a target by itself, which is what is going on here, but one of a set of targets about what they want to do about income and what they want to do about prices and what they want to do about interest rates and what they want to do about exchange rates. Okay? Focusing on a single exchange rate like this as the kind of the be-all and end-all of what you want to do, wow, is that going to be messy? Okay? And to be avoided. Okay? And yet, this is the level of discussion of a lot of people in the news media and in Washington. Oh, we want our currency to depreciate. Oh, we want our currency to appreciate. And it's going to be easy. You know what? It's not. Okay? It's hard for you. It's worse for them having to actually do it. Okay? And they don't get that. And I don't know why. It's just one of those weird things about how trade works in the real world. Governments are filled up with people with control issues that think that the economy is like a big machine with a bunch of dials and levers on it. And if they can just do all the dials and levers at the same time, they can get it right. And they're going to be able to get it right because they're so much smarter than everybody else that nobody else could do all the dials and levers just right. Yeah, the real world doesn't work like that, but a lot of people believe that it does. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.